Nomads, communities without fixed habitation based on a singular geographic location. They move to and from areas. From their humble beginnings of hunter-gatherers, nomadic culture had its highest point during the time of the Mongols. Most people might recognize the Mongolian leader, Genghis Khan, but the peak of the Mongol Empire came during the time of Kublai Khan. Kublai was Genghis Khan's grandson. This history of triumph and domination is a far stretch from what we see in the dark future of Cyberpunk 2077. On the outskirts of Night City, we find nomads who are eking out a living by doing odd jobs. The general conclusion I tend to get from people is that despite this uncomfortable existence, the nomads have more freedom than the gongs stuck in Night City. It is this illusion of freedom that we're going to talk about today. Chapter 1. Nomadic culture in the year 2077. I have found that my life gets easier the more I trust CDPR to know what they're talking about. So in that same spirit, I'll go to CDPR's official description of nomads. It reads, "The first nomads were farmers forced to leave their land by a series of natural disasters, wars, and corporate machinations. They moved out, gathering in larger and larger groups, hoping to find a better home for their families. But what they saw on their journeys across the states convinced them they were better off staying on the move. Historically, the nomads are divided into 7 nations, such as Snake Nation, the Aldecaldos, and Jodes, each of which is divided into clans and finally into individual families. Nomads travel with their entire families in search of gainful employment. They rebuilt cities and factories after the collapse, while also playing an important role in creating the Maglev network. Some clans take jobs from corporations, seasonal ones of course, so as not to stay too long in one place, while others work for local communities. Nomads value the family and follow their own unique code, which places loyalty to the clan above all else. It's important for us to put the historic context into place so as to not disrespect the nomads of Cyberpunk. Unlike Genghis Khan and his empire, nomads of this universe have never really held decisive political power. But their usefulness to Night City and the surrounding areas is often understated and in some cases underestimated. Let's begin looking at this before the time of Red. So back in the days when Night City was more of a regional hub, there existed some villages and habitats all around the city. Geographically speaking, these areas were just out of reach for Night City services to help and protect, so it basically left these areas under the mercy of the roving go gangs of the time. Nomads were a big part in reclaiming these lost ghost towns and small villages. For a more vivid description of nomads and nomadic culture, we can look at how they are described in the Cyberpunk 2020 sourcebook. They drove your family off the farm 10 years ago. The corporations rolled in, took over the land, and put rent-a-cops all over the place. It wasn't the first time it had happened. It wouldn't be the last. Gradually, your family fell in with a bunch of other homeless families, and they met another group until you'd created a nomad pack of nearly 200 members. Now, crammed into a huge ragtag fleet of cars, vans, buses, and RVs, your nomad pack roams the freeways. You look for supplies, odd jobs, and spare parts in a world where society has fragmented. The pack is your home. It has teachers, medtechs, leaders, and mechanics. It's virtually a town on wheels in which everyone is related by marriage or kinship. Sometimes the pack pulls into a town just to fuel up or get grub. Other times it swings south to follow the harvest. You pick crops in trade for cash or food. Less law-abiding packs are like mobile armies, terrorizing cities and hiring out as muscle in corporate wars. For obvious reasons, the cops don't like nomads. But it doesn't matter. Your vehicles are usually well armored and bristling with stolen weapons, miniguns, rocket launchers, and the like. Every kid knows how to use a rifle and everyone packs a knife. Being homeless in the 2000s isn't easy. The most visible members of the pack are the scouts, leather-armored riders on bikes or in fast muscle cars who protect the convoy from attacks and hunt up safe campsites. As a scout, you're on the lookout for trouble and you usually can find enough of it, with rival nomad packs, the law, and the corporates all after you. Like a modern-day cowboy, you ride the hard trail. You've got a gun, a bike, and that's all you need. You're a nomad. Fast forward from the time of Red to 2077, we find a different, much smaller version of nomads. If V chooses the nomad life path, it is heavily implied that he was once a member of the Bakkers nomad family. Do you know what happened to the Bakkers? Well, I didn't before doing research for this video. There is a shard in the game called The Fall of the Bakkers, and it can be found in a tent at the Aldecaldo camp in Rocky Ridge. This shard gives us a good image of what happened. It reads, "The indirect cause of the family's weakening in leadership was, paradoxically, not enough internal opposition within the group. Decisions made by Salida Bakker, the charismatic and surprisingly long-lived leader were made without so much as a grumble, and her orders were carried out immediately. Selita led the Bakkers with an iron fist. She was a domineering figure, perhaps overwhelmingly so. But you couldn't call her a tyrant. Loved and respected by all, toward the end of her life she seemed to regret that nobody in the family tried to take power or at the very least challenge her authority. After her death, the family entered a transition period. Selita's position was occupied successively by Dilu Bakker, Lona Ruiz, and Shari Dalin. None of them led the family for more than 2 years. Dilu died during a skirmish with Raf Shiv, Lona resigned, and Shari simply collected her things and disappeared from the camp one day. It seems that the family depended so long on Selita that when she was gone, nobody could make any firm, unilateral decisions. The family's subsequent leaders ruled without any conviction, in the words of Trin Bakker, who like many other young members left the Bakker family after it decided to merge with Snake Nation. Trin, when I looked at Dilu or Chari, I had the impression they had an invisible sign over their heads that said, "What would Selita do?" Lorna was alright, but she drank too much. To be honest, I don't blame her. I think Grandma's heart would break if she saw how quickly her successors went through the family's supplies and tore up contracts and agreements with other clans. And the idea to join Snake Nation? We might as well have asked Raf and Shiv to line us up on the dirt and execute us. What's the difference? That was the true end of the family. That's why I, Ocean, Lil Alam, Afshin, Persia, and others decided to leave. SW. Do you still keep in touch? Trin simply replies with a firm no. We can now confidently say that the situation is not looking that great for Nomads in the year 2077. From the Bakkers to the Aldecaldos, life is proving challenging. Leadership is not as strong as it used to be, and the threat of a collapse from within these families and clans is imminent. Due to the events of Cyberpunk 2077, we do spend a lot of time with the Aldecaldos. Time well spent, I might add. And during our time with this nomad family, we get a front row seat to the problems we just talked about in this chapter. We get a closer look at the relationship between Panam Palmer and Saul Bright. Panam Palmer belongs to the Aldecaldos, a nomad family in Night City. Or, if we want to be technical, it's a nomad family that has a camp on the outskirts of Night City. When she was young, her close friend was seized by the Raf Shiv, a rival nomadic faction, but was later rescued by Cassidy Ryder, another member of the Aldecaldos. This traumatic event left a profound mark on Panam, carrying into her grown-up years, and she hid it from everyone to try to erase the memory. Cassidy continued as a loyal friend to Panam and took on a guarding role over her. She also connected with various other tribe members, like Mitch Anderson and Driss Scorpion Mariana. Panam also looked up to Saul Bright, even though things are very different when we finally get to meet her in the game. Saul Bright was an Aldecaldo, renowned for his bold and humorous feats from his younger days. On one trip, Panam and Mitch moved freight from San Francisco to Kansas for a synthetic meat farm owner. The awful smell there nauseated Panam so much that she threw up on the owner's shoes, and he casually remarked, "No need to kneel, a handshake's fine." Later, the Aldecaldos pitched their tents in the Badlands near Night City. When we meet Panam in Cyberpunk 2077, her relationship with the leader of her clan, Saul, has reached an all-time low. She's decided that it's better, much better, if she goes at it alone. With hopes for a bright future, no pun intended, she takes on a job from Rogue that goes horribly wrong. This results in her losing her car and the merchandise she was supposed to transport. Despite being in this difficult situation, Panam refuses to be a victim.
Hello?
Hey, Panam. Got your number from Rogue. Name's V.
Great. Where's that old warhorse want to kick me now?
This thing between you and Rogue. Couldn't care less. Got a job for you.
Good. But I'm overextended at the moment.
With the merch in your car? Getting him back? I can help with that.
The rail freight yard on Bonita Street. The one hugging the city line. We'll meet there.
See ya. Hey, Panam?
So you're V. Where's my car?
Why does it matter? What's wrong with this one?
It's borrowed. It's not mine. I asked where my car is.
Agree to help me, you'll find out. Fine. Know where to find the cargo and your car, but you go alone, you won't get them back. And you could lose something else besides. So let's figure something out.
What do you want?
One guy I gotta talk to. A corpo traveling by Corp convoy.
No, I don't do abductions. Besides, you'd need many more bodies and heaps of gear to take a convoy.
It's just one AV. Planned route'll take it over Jackson Plains.
We also know that despite him telling Panam to leave, Saul really cares about her and her well-being. When Panam was injured during the Kang Tao incident, Saul sent out an entire group of nomads to go and help Panam finish the mission in a successful way. On the flip side, when Saul got kidnapped, Panam immediately contacted the most competent merc she knew and asked for help. V, being who V is, said yes, of course. The relationship between Saul and Panam isn't the way it is by chance. The relationship between the two has deteriorated because of the two weaknesses that most nomad families seem to have in the year 2077. Delusions of freedom combined with weak and indecisive leadership. Saul, being the more mature and level-headed of the two, has seen the writing on the wall. For the clan to survive, there needs to be a steady flow of business and jobs coming in. These should produce enough eddies to provide financial stability for the family and maybe allow for an upgrade of vehicles, facilities, and gear. Now here comes the problem. Night City being the city of dreams, or should I say, the city of foolish dreams, it is controlled by megacorpus to a crazy extent. There is no getting around that. Saul knows this and appears to have made up his mind that he and indeed the entire Aldecaldos clan needs to begin working with the mega corporation that has shown them the most amount of interest. Unbeknownst to him, the mega corporation that has been showing them the most interest has a very unique playbook that we're going to analyze in chapter 3. The company that's been showing the Aldecaldos the most amount of attention is Biotechnica. In general, what most people know about Biotechnica is that they created Chu 2, and in all honesty, the Chu 2 situation is quite interesting. The potential of Chu 2 was realized almost immediately after it was introduced, and within a few years, all fuel-burning vehicles and power plants had converted to the new fuel. Despite holding global patents, Biotechnica lacked the production facilities to meet global demand, forcing it to license production to several large agribusinesses and petro corporations. These transactions made Biotechnica a very wealthy but still small company. Companies such as Sovoil and Petrochem have the exclusive rights into producing the fuel. At the same time as they are making eddies off of this new invention, Biotechnica maintains a low-key profile when compared to the likes of Arasaka and Militech, so for anyone who doesn't fully understand Biotechnica, they would assume that it is a safe bet. Saul Bright, at least based on what he says in the game, is one of these people. They also make a huge amount of revenue from providing food security to cities and other major regions. We need to clarify what we mean by food security here. I'm sure you've heard people in Night City talk about SCOP.
V! Hey, V! Billy's best scop wieners right over here!
SCOP is not just a derogatory term for bad food or something like that. Even though it's used as an umbrella term for many synthetic meat products, what it actually stands for is single-celled organic protein. So when someone says they don't have time to cook, they're just going to have a SCOP burger, what they're actually saying is that they are going to have a burger made with synthetic meat products. Officially, that is what Biotechnica Flats is for. The flats are a vast expanse of protein farm greenhouses owned by Biotechnica. This facility is one of many that the corporation operates worldwide, tasked with mass-producing synthetic protein derivatives. The farms extend from the southern border of Night City, near Pacifica, all the way south until it reaches the border wall with South California. The Pacific Ocean lies to the west, while Highway 101 takes its eastern border alongside the Jackson Plains. Biotechnica uses all this staggering amount of land to provide Night City with more than half of its demands for alternative protein, becoming the source of much of the meat and meat substitute products in the metropolis. The most popular yet expansive production is based on protein-rich crickets. An alternative and less costly production consists of mass-growing worms, which are later grounded down into a meat-like paste known as SCOP. This paste is then shipped off to facilities where it is molded, flavored, and dyed into a shape that vaguely resembles meat. This meat is later used as a primary ingredient for much of the produced food in Night City and can be found in many establishments around the metropolis, including restaurants, marketplaces, etc. With Biotechnica, what we have is a mega corporation living off of the netwatch effect. This effect is something I just made up, by the way. But it is when a mega corporation is providing a truly valuable service to people that their image gets rehabilitated to a point where citizens forget that they are still a greedy mega corporation. This happens with Netwatch too. Since they genuinely try to protect people in the net, they get to do a lot of shady things without being held accountable. Same goes for Biotechnica in my opinion. They may appear as a smaller mega corporation that focuses on providing fuel and food security, but that's not all they're up to. In reality, Biotechnica is far more cutthroat and brutal than people realize. In Cyberpunk 2077, there are multiple instances that show us just how brutal and inhumane Biotechnica can get. For this video, we will limit ourselves to the events that directly affect Nomads in and around Night City. In 2077, Biotechnica captured Red Ochre members for scientific experiments and used them as test subjects for Project Nightingale, which resulted in the deaths of 70 clan members. Despite Dr. Koch's best efforts to offer them hush money in return for their forgiveness, the Red Ochre wanted blood, and to get it, they reached out to Dino Dinovich. Dino ends up offering V this contract, and V gladly accepts. Despite hiring the best of the best, since let's not forget that Biotechnica has very healthy revenue streams, it is not difficult for us to reach Joanne Koch and do what needs to be done.
Got a gig. Some Biotechnica big shot.
I was just on the line with Candace.
She's holed up in a Corp hotel. Security's tight, and I need me a merc who's up to the task. Anyway, know you like a challenge. Deets attached.
Yes, my adrenaline generator. I didn't put in last week. Well, it's not working. Not generating a damn monitor.
Yes. Claim it as an expense. Okay.
Hello. How can I help you?
Hi, I have an appointment with Mrs. Cook.
Very well. Just give me a moment to check. No, I'm afraid not. There must be a misunderstanding.
You don't say. I'd like to rent a room for the night. Single bed's fine.
I'm afraid that won't be possible. We are a corporate hotel available only to Biotechnica personnel.
Ah, that's a shame. Nice place.
What the hell? She got a mother.
Good, well done.
Wakey, wakey.
What? Who the hell are you?
What you'd find more interesting is who sent me. Remember your little science experiment with the Red Ochre clan? The families send their regards.
I do. I remember well. It was an integral stage in my research. You see, we're working on new antibiotic...
Oh, please. Gonna feed me the story of how sacrifices must be made in the quest to save humanity?
I'm not. I know people like you. Hired planning myself. And I know you won't let me go. But at least let me back up the test results for future application. These nomads, they're gone regardless. Let their death serve a purpose.
This antibiotic of yours, I know for damn sure most of humanity couldn't afford it. I know its main purpose is to fatten your holiday bonus. Fuck your data. You die here and now.
Security! Security!
We can also meet Alex Pushkin, who, fun fact, used to be black, but in recent updates, CDPR gave him the Michael Jackson treatment. But anyways, the point with Pushkin that we want to focus on is not this side quest in itself, but more so how he expresses himself when it comes to Nomads.
Wonder how many from Red Ochre died. You recall?
Who can keep track? Besides, they're like roaches. Disgusting things will just multiply again.
And here we have the problem. This is the focal point of the conflict between Panam and Saul. Saul is willing to work with people like this despite being a nomad. Panam, on the other hand, seems to understand the reality of life in Night City, and she can't accept this passive approach to survival. This surrendering to the mega corporation that smiles in your face but sees you as a mere cockroach. A disgusting thing that will sooner or later multiply. A thing to use in experiments without any remorse. With everything we've explored, it's clear that the situation for nomads in Cyberpunk 2077 is far more precarious than most realize. These groups living on the fringes of Night City in the sprawling Badlands cling to a vision of freedom that, while inspiring, is ultimately a delusion. The idea that humans can completely sever ties with society, eschewing responsibilities, connections, and reputation to live happily on the open road is a fantasy that reality dismantles over time. Nomads manage to sustain this lifestyle, sometimes for an entire generation, but their success hinges on a fragile foundation, a strong leader who serves as the linchpin to the outside world. When that leader dies or falters, the cracks in this isolated existence become impossible to ignore. The Bakker nomad family exemplifies this vulnerability. For years, they thrived under a leader, Selida Bakker, who maintained vital connections with other nomad clans, cities, and perhaps even corporations. But after her death, no one could step into her role. The family lacked successors with the experience or skills to broker deals, negotiate with outsiders, or preserve the networks that kept them afloat. Economic hardship followed, and weak leadership compounded the troubles. Eventually, the Bakkers made a desperate move, merging with the Snake Nation, a larger nomad group. For many members, this was a betrayal of their identity, a loss of the very freedom they prized. V, the protagonist in the nomad life path, removes the Bakker tag from his clothes at the beginning of the story.
Electric coupling module.
You said it was nothing serious when I came in. You said you were sure.
Guess I was wrong. Can always look for another shop where they won't ask a lone nomad why he's hugging the border.
I'm gonna pay you what we agreed. Not want any more.
Huh. For that, you can borrow my tools and fix it yourself.
That's fine. Step aside.
What?
A symbolic rejection of this collapse. The implication is clear: leadership failures drove V away, underscoring how quickly a nomad group can unravel without a capable figure to hold it together. In contrast, the Aldecaldos offer a different path forward, largely thanks to Panam Palmer. She's the prodigal daughter who returned to a clan with a fierce determination to reject weakness and complacency, while Saul, the Aldecaldos leader, remains stuck in survival mode, securing short-term corporate contracts to keep the clan afloat. Panam sees the bigger picture. She recognizes that working as cheap, disposable labor for corporations is a trap, a cycle of dependency that offers no future. Her proactive approach shines through in actions like stealing the Basilisk tank, a bold move that demonstrates her willingness to take risks for the clan's long-term benefit. Unlike Saul's focus on immediate survival, Panam's vision is about empowerment and independence, proving that engaging with the outside world doesn't have to mean surrender, it can mean seizing control. At the heart of the nomad's struggle is their cherished belief in complete freedom. It's a romantic ideal, but one that leaves them isolated and vulnerable. Humans, as a species, thrive on interdependence, on networks of trust, trade, and mutual support. Nomads can't sustain themselves indefinitely by cutting off these ties. While their lifestyle grants autonomy, it also deprives them of the resources and alliances needed for long-term stability. The Bakker family's downfall shows what happens when those external connections erode. A single point of failure, like the loss of a leader, can trigger a cascade of collapse. To survive, nomads must abandon this delusion and embrace a more pragmatic approach to their place in the world. So what do the nomads need to secure their future? First and foremost, they need strong, forward-thinking leadership. Leaders like Panam, who can navigate the complexities of the outside world, brokering deals, building alliances, and negotiating with cities, mercenaries, and corporations, are essential. This isn't about abandoning nomad values, but about adapting them to reality. Freedom doesn't mean isolation, it means having the power to choose your path, and that requires influence beyond the clan's borders. Engagement with the outside world is equally critical. Taking on odd jobs from corporations or local communities isn't enough. Nomads need to forge lasting connections and build a reputation that commands respect. This could mean forming pacts with other clans, establishing trade routes, or even negotiating terms with Night City's power players. The goal isn't to assimilate, but to interact on their own terms, ensuring they're not just pawns in someone else's game. Technology too offers a path forward. In the high-stakes world of Cyberpunk 2077, resourcefulness alone won't suffice. Nomads must harness innovation to boost their mobility, security, and economic prospects. The Aldecaldos' use of the Basilisk tank shows us how advanced tech can shift the balance of power, turning a nomadic clan into a force to be reckoned with. By embracing tools and strategies that amplify their strengths, nomads can level the playing field against corporations and rival groups. Ultimately, the nomads' greatest assets, their adaptability, resourcefulness, and deep family bonds, could be the foundation for an amazing future. But to realize this potential, they must evolve. Clinging to isolationism and outdated notions of freedom will only lead to more stories like the Bakkers. With leaders like Panam at the helm, willing to take risks and build bridges, nomads can carve out a place where autonomy and stability coexist. The road ahead is fraught with danger. Rival clans like the Rough and Sheave, corporate exploitation, and the harsh Badlands itself. But if they can overcome these challenges, the nomads have a shot at not just surviving, but thriving. Night City may prioritize the self and the family, but for nomads, the key to both lies in looking beyond the horizon. That has been it for today, guys. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I have started memberships for this channel, so feel free to check that out as well. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.